Good afternoon. Welcome back into Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We begin our broadcast this afternoon with a Truth Social post from President Trump that reads, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows, the president says. We'll find out tonight, one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran," end quote. You can stay with Right Side Broadcasting Network for any developments on Operation Epic Fury, as they may or may not happen, specifically for that 8 o'clock Eastern deadline tonight that the world is literally watching. Meantime, switching gears and switching a lot of gears right now to this video from the White House. 2026 Easter egg roll. Let's go over some of the highlights from yesterday as we continue covering the news of the day. And you saw that event right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Quite the great event there yesterday where President Trump spoke for a little bit. Of course, the First Lady of the United States also chimed in during that speech. And then the two went down there, mixed in with the crowd. And of course, President Trump took on a lot of questions, specifically about Operation Epic Fury. So that's what everyone is interested in, at least today on this Tuesday, April 7th. What will happen in about how many hours from now? 7 hours? We'll see. It's that 8 p.m. Eastern time that the news, the people, all of us, we're just checking it out. We're going to see what happens as there are human chains being formed around various power plants and bridges in Iran. That's what Iranians, some of the leadership there are calling for, at least from scattered reports that I'm seeing on X. There's actual video of people standing around power plants. So what's going to happen? That's the big question. So we'll see. Also, we do know that, of course, President Trump spoke about the great rescue that happened when the second pilot was rescued. Of course, it's great when the first one was found alive, but the second one, I saw a report where he climbed about 7,000 feet up a mountain and hid in an area there before he was found. So let's go into some more detail from that in case you missed it from President Trump just yesterday in clip number 2.
Despite the peril, the officer followed his training and climbed into the treacherous mountain terrain and started climbing toward a higher altitude, something they were trained to do in order to evade capture. They want to always go as far away from the site of the shoot down. You want to go as far away because they all head right to that site. You want to be as far away as you can. And he was injured, and he was an amazing, amazing thing. He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location. They have a very sophisticated beeper-type apparatus that is on them at all times. And when they go out on these missions, they make sure they have lots of battery space, and they're in good shape. And this one worked really well, amazingly, saved his life. We immediately mobilized a massive operation to retrieve him from the mountain holdout. And he kept going higher and higher. The mountain kept getting rougher and rougher, and really very, very hard to find.
All right, so President Trump, of course, you saw him yesterday along with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Daniel Kaine, and others speaking about Operation Epic Fury and that specific event where the second pilot of that F-15 was rescued. So coming up in just a little bit, Mike Ferris, the General Counsel at the National Religious Broadcasters, will join us to talk about a few things going on his way. Also, before we go to that, let's go to a number of other things, including the Vice President speaking overseas a few thousand miles away during his visit with Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Hungary. Let's go to clip 3.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister, first of all, and thanks to the people of Hungary for welcoming me. This is a beautiful city, a city that I've been to once before on a personal trip probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember the first time that I came to this beautiful country, my wife was about 20 weeks pregnant with our second child. And now we've come back to Budapest, and my wife is 20 weeks pregnant with our fourth child. So there's an interesting way in which our trips to Hungary have rhymed. I also want to thank the President of the United States, who, of course, is a dear friend of Prime Minister Orban and a very strident supporter of Prime Minister Orban, because together, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Hungary have been able to do amazing things. And we're here because we want to celebrate those amazing things. We want to build upon those amazing things. And, of course, I want to help as much as I possibly can the Prime Minister as he faces this election season, which I believe is happening in just about a week, the election to elect the next Prime Minister of Hungary. Now, I don't expect, of course, the people of Hungary to listen to the Vice President of the United States. That's not primarily why I'm here. But I did want to send a signal to everybody, particularly the bureaucrats in Brussels who have done everything that they can to hold down the people of Hungary because they don't like the leader who has actually stood up for the people of Hungary. And I think it's important to say that. There are so many things that we could point to. There are so many economic pieces of cooperation, so much investment that's come into Hungary from the United States. I think Viktor Orban has been the single most profound leader in Europe on the question of energy security and independence. It is funny to watch prime ministers and leaders in some of the Western European capitals talk about the energy crisis when, frankly, they should have been following the policies of Viktor Orban in Hungary. And if they had, the energy crisis that they're experiencing would be a lot less bad, because what's going on in Hungary right now is that while, yes, energy prices are elevated, they're far less elevated here than they are almost anywhere else in Europe. And that's because of the leadership of the man who's standing next to me. And I think that leadership can provide a model to the continent. We want Europe to be successful. We want European families to be able to afford to heat their homes and to build great things. We want Europe to be energy independent and even energy dominant, but it's not going to be energy secure if it continues to follow the failed policies of the past. And so I think Viktor has been a great example in charting a course that could lead to a better, more prosperous, and more energy secure Europe. There's a lot of other cooperation in technology and artificial intelligence and manufacturing. There are so many ways in which the United States and Hungary have been great economic partners, and that partnership has really accelerated over the past couple of years under President Trump's leadership. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here primarily, Viktor, because of the economic cooperation between our countries. I'm here because of the moral cooperation between our two countries, because what the United States and Hungary together represent under Viktor's leadership and under President Trump's leadership is the defense of Western civilization, the defense of the idea that children should be able to go to school and get educated and not indoctrinated, the defense of the idea that European and American families should be able to transport themselves and be able to afford to heat and cool their homes, the defense of the idea that we are founded on a certain Christian civilization and Christian values that animate everything from freedom of speech to rule of law to respect for minority rights and protection of the vulnerable. There is so much that unites the United States and Hungary, and unfortunately, there have been too few people who have been willing to stand up for the values of Western civilization. Viktor Orban is the rare exception that has unfortunately proved the rule. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm here because Viktor is a statesman, and we have seen so much talk in European capitals about the need to end the war in Russia and Ukraine, and we certainly agree with it. The war would have never started if President Trump had been president 4 years ago, but now that it has started, probably the two leaders who have done the most to actually end that destructive conflict have been Donald J. Trump and Viktor Orban in Hungary, and they've done it through diplomacy, through talking to people, through trying to understand what the Ukrainians and the Russians need to end the war. We're going to continue to participate in that process, but I think that it is a testament to the people of Hungary that you're a country of 10 million people. But I'm telling you, I've sat in all the rooms and I've been on all the phone calls. Your leadership has been a far, far more important and constructive partner for peace than almost anyone anywhere else in the world. And that is a great testament, I think, to the wisdom and the courage of the people of Hungary. And then finally, I just want to say something, one final observation about this election. What has happened in this country, what has happened in the midst of this election campaign is one of the worst examples of foreign election interference that I've ever seen or ever even read about. The bureaucrats in Brussels have tried to destroy the economy of Hungary. They have tried to make Hungary less energy independent. They have tried to drive up costs for Hungarian consumers, and they've done it all because they hate this guy. But I think that what the people of Hungary, what I would encourage them to do is ask themselves the question, not who's pro or anti-Europe, not who's pro or anti the United States of America, but who is pro you, who is pro the people of Hungary. In my experience, I've seen a guy who has ferociously advocated for the interests of Hungary. I'm here to help him in this campaign cycle, and yet when I sat down with Victor, we didn't talk about politics. We talked about Here are 5 things that we need, that the Hungarian people need from the United States in order to further our partnership and in order to achieve prosperity. That's the kind of leadership that is needed. And on everything from digital censorship, why are bureaucrats in Brussels telling social media companies what information they're giving to Hungarian voters? I think the voters of Hungary are adults. They are sovereign in their own country, and they should be able to look at whatever information they would like to about the election without somebody in a faraway capital treating them like children. Sovereignty, democracy are fundamentally about the people choosing. And part of the reason why we're here and part of the reason why the President of the United States sent me here is because that we think the amount of interference that's come from the bureaucracy in Brussels has been truly disgraceful. I won't tell the people of Hungary how to vote. I would encourage the bureaucrats in Brussels to do the exact same thing. So, Victor, thank you, and it's good to see you.
All right, so the vice president overseas in Hungary with the great leader Viktor Orban there speaking, as you guys just saw. So if you'd like to check more of that out, of course, you can always check us out on Rumble, YouTube, X, all over the place, really. Thanks so much for doing so. Let's go to a couple of our sponsors, then we'll bring in our first live guest of the afternoon here on this Tuesday, April 7th. Let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, a lot of great sponsors here, including MyPillow. The warehouse moving sale. Enough said for me, to be honest, because you could save up to 80%, a lot of great quality products there. And that's what's awesome about MyPillow. This isn't just, percentages off because they're just trying to sell cheap goods. This is not cheap goods. These are great quality products that my family uses. I know a lot of you guys out there have that as well, whether it's slippers, slides, pillows, the sheets, all the things. So many great products, including the My Coffee. So mypillow.com/RSBN. And speaking of Right Side Broadcasting Network, if you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is just visit RSBN right there, rsbnetwork.com/donate as we continue to grow and expand here in conservative media. All right, so we're approaching 1:15, and let's go now to Mike Ferris. He's part of the general counsel with the National Religious Broadcasters. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
It's an honor to be with you.
So let's get right into it. Can you talk to us about your role at the National Religious Broadcasters and also bring us up to speed on the recent appeal, I guess, with that court ruling in the Johnson Amendment case?
As General Counsel for National Religious Broadcasters, I am in charge of all the litigation that we do. Mainly, I write amicus briefs in the Supreme Court and other federal courts on First Amendment issues, but occasionally we do direct litigation, and the challenge to the constitutionality of the tax code that limits the ability of nonprofits to speak about candidates is something that we've directly litigated, and I'm lead counsel in that case.
Okay, so can you bring us up to speed on what exactly the Johnson Amendment is? I was doing some research as well. I know it was introduced by then Texas Senator Lyndon B. Johnson into the tax code back in the 50s, but that 30,000 foot view, just as easy as you can explain it to all of us, what is the Johnson Amendment and what is needed in order to have freedom of speech within, I guess, the pulpit in this situation, right?
Right. Focusing just on the pulpit, although it applies broadly to all nonprofits, it means pastors cannot say what they want to say about candidates, supporting a candidate or opposing a candidate. That's how it's written. The way it works in real life is that if you support a Democrat, you're fine. They let you get away with it. If you're supporting a conservative candidate or a Republican candidate, the IRS is far more likely to come down on you, as they did my own church, which is Leesburg's Cornerstone Chapel Church. And the IRS did a Johnson Amendment fine against our church for our pastor's sermon a few years ago, where he just compared the platforms of the two parties compared to the Word of God. So it limits the ability of pastors to speak freely about candidates.
Isn't that interesting? Back in the day in the 50s, they're like, we want to minimize the speech of, pastors or religious leaders, especially if they start talking about politics. That's definitely not First Amendment sounding to me. So can you bring us up to the up to speed on the fact
Sure.
that you guys, there was a ruling from Judge Campbell Barker, who, I guess this was in Texas recently, all about allowing political speech in the pulpit by seeking a consent agreement to the Johnson Amendment. And then you guys are now appealing his ruling. Is that what the latest is at this point?
We filed the case when the Biden administration was in their last year of operating the Justice Department. And then it was, we were head to head at that point. But when the Trump team took over, we worked out an agreement that the Johnson Amendment should not be read to apply to what the pastor said on Sunday, that they recognized to read it that way violated the First Amendment. And so there's a duty of the government to not interpret its law in a way that violates the Constitution, particularly the First Amendment. And so, but the judge had to approve that consent decree. And in order to do so, he has to find that he has jurisdiction. And there's a law in the books called the Anti-Injunction Act that basically says you can't sue about your taxes until you've paid them. Well, the way he applied that law is not consistent with what the Supreme Court says, because there's no tax liability on the table here. There's just a free speech issue. And the court has said that you don't have to violate the law to challenge it when it restricts your freedom of speech. And so churches and other nonprofits don't have to get in trouble with the IRS to say, we'd like the court to tell us what the rules are so we don't sit here in limbo. And engage in self-censorship. And so we're appealing his dismissal of the case last week to the Fifth Circuit, and they can either just say he was wrong on the dismissal. Of course, they could say he was right on the dismissal, but we're hoping they won't say that. But they could also just go ahead and approve the consent decree. So we're hoping that they will do both of those things, but at least getting the jurisdictional thing off the table so we can get to the merits and find that we pastors indeed have freedom of speech in this country and they're not relegated to second-class status.
Okay, so let's dive in just one more question. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm glad you're with us, kind of helping to break this down. So within that tax code, under that amendment, tax-exempt organizations such as churches and nonprofits are not allowed to endorse or oppose political candidates. That way, money from donations, which are tax deductible, are not used for political campaigning. So when you look at that and you see freedom of speech, how do you, again, bring it full circle for us, how do you mix that in when that sounds pretty accurate though? If someone's politically campaigning, but then the whole tax situation, can you kind of break that down for us again?
Sure. If our consent decree is approved, churches can't write checks to candidates afterwards. They can't hold political rallies for candidates. They can't give their building over to a candidate and let him run a campaign event at their building. All those things stay in place. The only thing that changes is on the, this applies to churches and synagogues and all kinds of worship houses, but we'll just say churches. On Sunday morning in the church, the pastor's free to say what he wants. And they're saying that in that space, the Constitution operates to be more important and a superior authority over the tax code.
Okay.
And so generally speaking, churches will still not be able to fund campaigns or anything like that. It just frees the pastor to say what he wants to say during his sermon.
And that sounds like freedom to me, and I know that's why you're on the case there with the National Religious Broadcasters. Mike Ferris, General Counsel with the NRB. Sir, thank you again for joining us. Thanks for breaking that down for us here on Right Side.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Thank you again. Be great to have him return to the broadcast another time with other events that are going on, especially when it comes down to freedom of speech and our Constitution versus, things like that with the tax code and churches and all of that. But let's go to a couple of our sponsors before we continue on our live broadcast here. Let's go with the first one right there, as you're about to see on your screen. You see All Family Pharmacy. Yesterday, as you see, we talked about this one a lot as well because with everything going on in the world right now, the supply chain issues, global instability, shortages that really nobody's talking about, your access to the medication is something that should be top of mind because most people don't think about it until they need something and can't get it. And by then, it's just too late. So we've been recommending All Family Pharmacy for a while now, and this is exactly why. They're an independent American pharmacy that helps you stay stocked and prepared. They carry hard-to-find medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and I will stop there and want to share that with you because ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, that is, as you may know, is not something you can just go to a doctor always and get a prescription for because there's different doctors out there that say, well, ivermectin shouldn't be used for this or that, and you know what I mean? So this pharmacy, you're getting that hard-to-find medication like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, methylene blue, NAD+, how about more than 400 everyday prescriptions for things like blood pressure or thyroid or diabetes and more. And they make this process simple. They already have, if you already have a prescription, your doctor can send it straight to them. If you don't have one, you can go online, fill out a quick form. A licensed doctor reviews it, and if appropriate, they'll handle the prescription and then ship it right to your door. So this is all about being prepared before you need it, not scrambling after the fact. So the people who have what they need in a crisis are the ones who simply planned ahead. So you don't have to wait until the shelves are empty. You can get ahead of it now. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN to search for what you and your family might need and save 10% at checkout when you use that RSBN 10 promo code that you see right there on your screen. Let's go to Birch Gold Group as well, because when the dollar's convertibility into gold ended back in the 70s in 1971, gold was fixed at $35 an ounce. If you fast forward to today, the US dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. Gold, on the other hand, has increased in value by more than 12,000%. That's why central banks and others out there are buying gold at record levels. So here at RSBN, we encourage you to consider diversifying your savings with physical gold from Birch Gold Group. But this all starts with education. So Birch Gold actually just announced their Learn and Earn Precious Metals event. It's a free online event rewarding you for learning the basics of investing in precious metals. You can sign up to get free silver on your next purchase, get even larger incentives as you go. So the more you learn, the more you can earn. But you must act now because this special event only runs to the end of the month, April 30th. The dollar lost its anchor back in 71. You don't have to lose yours. Text the word Trump to the number you see there on your screen, 989898, to join Birch Gold's Learn and Earn Precious Metals event by April 30th. Text Trump to 989898 today. All right. 1:24, Tuesday, April 7th. Let's go right back to the top of the broadcast quickly because it's on top of mind. I know there's a lot of stories out there, things like the Save America Act, the DHS funding issue that's still sitting out there. But of course, Operation Epic Fury on the heels of this post from President Donald J. Trump. He said this morning, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again." He says, "I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." However, now that we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows, the president says. We will find out tonight, and that is at 8 p.m. Eastern time, the president said on a prior post. We'll find out tonight one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. End quote from the commander-in-chief. Again, stay with Right Side Broadcasting Network for any developments. This specifically tonight and the next 24 to 48 hours? Is this something that are these words? Is this actions? We don't know, but that's a lot of military strategy that I'm not privy to, and I'm glad not to be actually. All right, so 1:25, Tuesday, April 7th. All right, thanks again for joining us here on Right Side. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Happening right now, live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go over to the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is speaking. So let's rewind a little bit and play that from the top.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start this afternoon by thanking Pam. She is a great friend of mine, a great friend of the President's, and has been a great patriot to this country. Over the past 13 months, Attorney General Bondi did an incredible job tackling violent crime, drug cartels, and reforming this department. Our streets are safer because of Pam's vision and her commitment to justice. It has been an honor to serve with her, and I know that what she has coming up next, we will continue to hopefully be able to work together. Every day, Department of Justice investigators and prosecutors work to punish those who commit fraud. For example, just this week, and it's only Tuesday, a criminal defendant was sentenced and the department obtained 2 additional guilty pleas in matters totaling over $500 million in healthcare and COVID fraud. If you think about that, just since yesterday, we had a guilty plea in a $160 million healthcare enrollment fraud scheme and a sentencing in a $100 million COVID-19 fraud and a guilty plea in a $160 million healthcare fraud scheme as well. Each of these cases represents countless hours of dedication from the prosecutors and the federal agents and local law enforcement who work them. The Department of Justice is holding criminals accountable for stealing over $500 million from taxpayers. And across our U.S. attorney's offices, all over this country, we currently have over 8,000 fraud matters underway. Unfortunately, as you've heard a lot about recently, because it's true, these cases represent a fraction of the fraud ripping off our country every day. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump, this department, working closely with the task force to eliminate fraud, is supercharging efforts to take down every fraudster and bring them to justice. I want to thank the Vice President and Anti-Fraud Task Force Chair Andrew Ferguson for their focus on this issue and for empowering this department to go after criminals who steal from the government like never before. Our goal is to prevent this from ever happening again. Because of this administration's leadership, fraudsters, scammers, tax cheats, or anyone who lies to get rich off the generosity of the American people should be on notice. Now, this isn't new for this department. We have a storied history of combating fraud and bringing criminal actors to justice. But the department has never adopted a comprehensive and coordinated approach to investigating and prosecuting fraud against taxpayer dollars and taxpayer-funded programs. With over $1 trillion at stake every single year, threatened by increasingly sophisticated and opportunistic fraudsters, the time for this comprehensive and coordinated approach is now. And so today, I'm proud to announce in greater detail the creation of the National Fraud Enforcement Division. Its core mission will be to zealously investigate and prosecute those who steal taxpayer dollars and rip off the American people. Our vision is to build a robust fraud-fighting squad capable of investigating and prosecuting the full spectrum of fraud against taxpayer dollars. We are going to staff this division by some of the department's best prosecutors, bringing together experts in healthcare fraud, tax fraud, benefits fraud, and corporate fraud under one roof with one mission: to protect the American people from fraud. Every U.S. Attorney's Office across the country will also be joining this re-energized fight against fraud. This means, in pure numbers, that there will be an additional 93 prosecutors in every district across the country devoted to the mission of combating fraud with the National Fraud Enforcement Division. To the attorneys and staff who join this new division, you will have the entire department's support as you work to protect the financial integrity of our entire government and the tax system that supports it. We will spare no resources in giving you the tools that you need to bring strong cases and do justice. The new division will bring together data and investigators from across the entire government so that you can track down even the most sophisticated fraudsters and hold them accountable. For example, today I am directing the department to establish the National Fraud Detention Center. This fraud detention center will be a permanent, prosecutor-led, multi-agency data analytics team working to ferret out the most harmful actors defrauding federal government programs. So to the fraudsters who seek to take advantage of our nation, let this be a warning. The department will investigate you, we will charge you with crimes, and we will ensure that you are punished for your actions. The American people deserve an end to the crisis of fraud, and there is no better prosecutor to lead this mission than newly appointed Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald, who's standing to my left. In the words of President Trump, he is very smart, tough, and highly respected. Colin is a veteran prosecutor who has spent his entire career as an Assistant United States Attorney in the Southern District of California. During his time in the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, he championed public safety and law enforcement, and I am confident that the National Fraud Enforcement Division and the entire department will benefit from his experience and his total commitment to justice. I expect there will be more to come in the next days and weeks from Colin and the Anti-Fraud Task Force, but I wanted to tell the American people today what this department is doing to comprehensively attack the fraud crisis in this country. Thank you. I'll take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Attorney General. President Trump.
All right, and you'll be able to check that out. We're going to upload that to our various social media platforms, the question and answer session, as we aired the opening speech there by the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche in Washington, D.C. Before we switch gears to some of the other stories that we're following here on Right Side, let's go to some of our sponsors, including Kalshi.com/RSBN. All sorts of great questions there that people are either betting, trading, or just checking out polls on. You have 3 ways to get to Kalshi. You can use that QR code that you see on your screen, or you can go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can also download the Kalshi app. So 3 ways to get there, but also more than 1 million people. I believe it's up to 2 million at this point. The users across this country that are on there following Kalshi on X and all over the place, because it's one of those sites that are bringing not only opportunities for you to check out polls and what people are betting and trading on, but a whole new discussion happening on the internet thanks to Kalshi.com/RSBN. rumble.com/RSBN. Let's also go to Rumble Wallet. Speaking of breakthroughs to next levels, Rumble Wallet. You may have seen some of the conversations happening online lately where censorship is back and happening everywhere. Platforms trying to control narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. But of course, with Rumble Wallet, we can fight back in the financial area, the information arena as well, as they have stood the test of time and deserves our support. Rumble right here, Rumble Wallet. So you can tip your favorite creators with crypto or cash if you'd like through Rumble Wallet. So Rumble Wallet is simple. You how many times am I going to say you? You control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. So it's yours and only yours to protect your future and family. So all you have to do is go to wallet.rumble.com, wallet.rumble.com. You can get that Rumble Wallet app. You open an account and you can step away from the big banks today. Two great sponsors right here on Right Side, Kalshi and Rumble Wallet, and all of them, of course. And thank you all for donating to the network as well. As it's 1:36, Tuesday, April 7th. Okay, so we've talked about Operation Epic Fury. We've talked about a little bit of the Save America Act, bringing up the fact of the DHS shutdown. Of course, there are a lot of stories that we're tracking out there, including Artemis II. We know that the president spoke with the 4 astronauts earlier. We're going to go to that in just a minute. But before we do, let's go to clip 4, where Artemis II, as they are returning to Earth after orbiting the moon, this video released by NASA just last night.
Orion has come back around the other side of the moon, and that little crescent that you see is Earth, over 252,000 miles away. With this transit complete, lunar flyby continues, but Orion has also technically begun its journey home. Right now, the crew are getting a few moments to enjoy and take photos of Earthrise for themselves, and we expect to contact them shortly. But we do have good signal coming from Orion.
And if you're just joining us right now, this is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Robert McNeely will be in studio here within the next 20 minutes or so as we split the show today on our different shifts. But also, speaking of Robert, he'll be out there in Arizona coming up April 17th because President Trump will be out there delivering a speech. And of course, here at Right Side, we'd love to talk to all of you guys out there outside of the venues before the speeches. And we usually start pretty early, so hopefully you'll watch with us here on Rumble and YouTube and X and Truth Social and all the places, including our app. My wife actually watches on the app, which is pretty cool. I like to watch on Rumble and YouTube whenever we kind of rewatch some of the shows on occasion. So anyway, thanks so much for doing so. Also X, always fun to do that. And might as well shout out Truth Social again anyway. All right, back to the point. Save America Act is something obviously we've been talking about a lot, but Operation Epic Fury with tonight's 8 o'clock Eastern time deadline that President Trump has spoken about. Of course, if you've been following what he's been saying, you saw this morning quite the post. So we'll see what happens tonight. In the meantime, we're going to get back to Artemis, and then we're going to get to President Trump's call to those 4 astronauts. But in a pretty cool moment, there are, as you guys know, craters on the moon, but they have various names assigned to them as well. The actual craters do. So Apollo and King are some of the names. Well, the Artemis II crew has a few names for some of the craters that they have named themselves. So let's check it out.
Thank you, Houston. We have a couple more things we'd like to take this moment for. Our science team helped us out with a couple of relatively fresh craters on the moon that have not been previously named, and our crew would like to propose a couple of potential names for those items or those areas. And we spent a bit of time this morning looking out the window, and we're able to see them now both with our naked eye and through the long lens. And so we feel this is a good time to send this down, and a special shout out to Kalshi for helping us with this. The first one we'd like to suggest is a named crater in honor of our great spacecraft integrity. And so if you were to look at Oriental on the far side and then draw a line straight up to Ohm on the far side, relatively in the middle is an unnamed crater, and we would like to suggest it be called Integrity in the future. second one, and especially meaningful for this crew, is a number of years ago we started this journey in our close-knit astronaut family, and we lost a loved one. And there's a feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary. In fact, it's just on the near side of that boundary, and so at certain times of the moon's transit around Earth, we will be able to see this from Earth. And so we lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, the spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie. And if you want to find this one, you look at Glushko, and it's just to the northwest of that, at the same latitude as Ohm, and it's a bright spot on the moon. And we would like to call it Carol, and you spell that C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
As you saw there, powerful, powerful moments as some of the astronauts are naming specifically some of the craters in the moon. I didn't know that all of the craters, a lot of them have names like Apollo or King and that kind of thing, and that one there for Carol. So quite the moment there that I saw on NASA's page, on the X page just yesterday. I thought I'd bring that to your attention if you haven't seen it. That was the first time that I was able to watch the video in full. I saw the post about it, the content, but wow. What a moment there, as it's 1:42. April 7th, let's go to some of our sponsors as we continue our live broadcast here, including covepure.com/RSBN. You've heard us talk about Cove Pure a lot before, and if those water scares in Flint, Michigan, and East Palestine, Ohio weren't enough to get you to make the switch, well, this might. More than 176 million Americans are drinking tap water with PFAs in it. They're that man-made chemical used in food packaging, non-stick cookware, firefighting foam, and scientists call them forever chemicals because once they're in your body, they stay there and they don't break down. And then they're linked to hormone disruption, immune damage, and increased cancer risk. But here's the part that should make you a little bit more angry, according to Cove Pure, and it's true because the EPA set legal limits for these PFAs in drinking water back in 2024, but water systems have until 2031 to comply. So that's 5 whole years from now. And until that deadline arrives, a utility can be operating above the legal limit right now, and it's not required to notify you. So you're just drinking that tap water. That's why every single household should have a product like this, specifically Cove Pure. The government knows these chemicals are harmful enough to regulate. They're just not making anyone act on it yet, which means if you want clean, healthy water, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Cove Pure was engineered exactly for this. Unlike the normal pitcher filters you get at the store, their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is actually certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So those PFAs, heavy metals, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, filtering particles, hundreds of thousands of times smaller than a single human hair. So one of the best parts about Cove Pure is they make it so easy. It sits right on your countertop. You don't have to drill any holes or call someone to kind of install that thing. You just plug it in, and you can even get whatever temperature water you want, hot, cold, or warm, with the tap of a button. So you don't have to wait till 2031. Take control of your water quality right now. Head to covepure.com/RSBN. And because you're a viewer here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, you'll get $250 off right now, covepure.com/RSBN. Also, all family pharmacy, as you see right there, with everything going on in the world right now. And there's a lot, as you guys know, supply chain issues as well, global instability, shortages that not many are talking about. Your access to medication is something that should be top of mind. Now, most people don't think about it until they need something and can't get it. And by then, it's just too late. So we've been recommending all family pharmacy for a while now. And This is exactly why they're an independent American pharmacy that helps you stay stocked and prepared. They carry hard-to-find medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, methylene blue, and NAD+, along with more than 400 everyday prescriptions for blood pressure, thyroid, diabetes, and more. And they make this whole process simple. If you already have a prescription, your doctor can send it straight to them. If you don't have one, you simply go online, you fill out a quick form, a licensed doctor reviews it, and if appropriate, they handle the prescription and it ships right to your door. So this is about being prepared before you need it, not scrambling after the fact. So the people who have what they need, of course, in a crisis are the ones who simply planned ahead. Don't wait until the shelves are empty. You can get ahead of it all now. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get that 10% off. Use the RSBN 10 promo code. Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so tomorrow, Wednesday, April 8th, President Trump mentioned during that news conference yesterday that members of NATO will visit the White House. So we'll keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Plus, as I mentioned moments ago, a bit higher in the sky, we're also monitoring the Orion spacecraft as President Trump spoke with the 4 astronauts who are returning to Earth after orbiting the moon some 250,000 miles away. Let's check out that phone call from the Commander-in-Chief.
Administrator Isaacman, we've got you loud and clear, sir. How us?
I've got you loud and clear. Artemis II crew, we have a very special guest who wanted to be the first person to greet you after your return from the far side of the moon. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, it's my honor to introduce the President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Jared, and you are doing a fantastic job. And hello, very special hello to Artemis II. Today you've made history and made all America really proud, incredibly proud. We have a lot of things to be proud of lately, but this is there's nothing like what you're doing, circling around the moon for the first time in more than a half a century and breaking the all-time record for the farthest distance from planet Earth. Humans have really never seen anything quite like what you're doing in a manned spacecraft. It's really special. I want to personally salute and congratulate Commander Reed Weissman, Pilot Victor Glover, Mission Specialist Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. And I also want to thank the entire amazing team at NASA, headed by Jared, who's a very special guy, by the way, and you all made this day possible, and you've really inspired the entire world. Really, everybody's watching. They find it incredible. I just watched you go to the back of the moon, and people haven't been there in a long time, we can say, but it's going to be more and more prevalent because we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and then you're going to ultimately do the whole big trip to Mars, and that's going to be very exciting. So you look at, we had no astronaut has been to the moon since the days of Apollo program. The Apollo program was also very special, but that was 50 years ago. And at long last, America is back, and America is back in many ways stronger than ever before. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. The Artemis crew flew in the most powerful rocket NASA has ever made, ever launched, traveled over 250,000 miles, broke the distance record set by the legendary Apollo 13. And America is a frontier nation, and the 4 brave astronauts of Artemis II are a modern day, you really are modern day pioneers, all of you. And one of them happens to be a neighbor. You know who that is, right? You have a special person over there, a neighbor, and we like our neighbor. Your mission paves the way for America's return to the lunar surface very soon. We're going all out. We're doing everything we can, and it's headed up by Jared. We'll plant our flag once again, and this time we won't just leave footprints. We'll establish a permanent presence on the moon, and we'll push on to Mars. That'll be very exciting. I'm waiting for that so much. I'd love to be here, but maybe we won't quite make it in terms of timing, but we will be up in the moon, and that's going to happen soon. So America will be second to none in space and everything else that we're doing, and we will continue to lead the whole thing into the stars, this incredible journey into the stars. So I just wanted, it's an honor to speak to you, and I wanted to congratulate each and every one of you. And tell me, what is the most unforgettable part of this really historic day? The whole world is watching and listening, please tell me.
President, this call is certainly special to all of us, and we really have a lot of faith in our administrator, Jared Isaacman, who is with you. We appreciate his leadership in NASA and in the international community. We are doing great things, and we are proud to be a part of it. I have to tell you, as we came around the near side of the moon, seeing all the sights that we've seen from Earth for all of our lives, but we're seeing them from a different perspective, and then we started to get a glimpse of the and we saw sites, Oriental sites that no human has ever seen before, not even in Apollo, and that was amazing for us. And then the surprise of the day, we just came out of an eclipse where the sun, moon, and the entire dark moon about that big right out the window that we were watching. We could see the corona of the sun, and then we could see the planet train line up, and we at Mars, and all of us commented how excited we are to watch this nation and this planet become a two-planet species.
That is fantastic. You know, I had a decision to make in my first term, and the decision is, what are we going to do at NASA? Are we going to have it be revived, or are we going to close it down? And I had very little hesitation, and it's really great to have somebody like Jared involved, because he really makes it much easier for me. But it was not even a question in my own mind. We've spent what we had to do, and then of course we have Space Force, and Space Force is very much related to what you're doing, and that was my baby. That was a very important one, and it'll turn out to be truly one of the most important, I believe, decisions I've ever made. So we're very proud of Space Force, and we're very proud of all of you. Does anybody else have anything to say? A lot of people listening.
Mr. President, to be here with you speaking about our incredible day today. I think one of the biggest highlights was coming back from the far side of the moon and having the first glimpses of planet Earth again after being out of communication for about 45 minutes. It really just reminds you what a special place we have and how important it is for our nation to lead and not follow in exploring deep space.
I'd like to ask, what was your feeling when you had no communication, zero communication? All of a sudden it was cut off by, obviously, your very special location. What was your feeling when you had no communication? A little bit different, perhaps.
Yes, Mr. President, it was I said a little prayer, but then I had to keep rolling. I was actually recording scientific observations of the far side of the moon. You know, that is actually the time when we were the farthest and the closest to the moon. And so we were really able to make some of our most detailed observations of the far side of the moon up close. And so we were busy up here working really hard. And I must say, it was actually quite nice.
Did you see a difference, a big difference, between the far side of the moon and the near side of the moon? Was there a difference in feel or difference in look? What did you see?
Well, Mr. President, we certainly did, and our science team really set us up well to understand what they thought we might see. And the gravitational pull of the Earth has had a profound effect on the near side of the moon, changing all those dark mares, those dark patches of the moon you see from Earth. It's very different on the far side. While you see some small patches of those mare in deep craters, it's very much absent on that side, so that's really neat. And while I have the microphone, sir, I just want to thank you on behalf of Canada. The space leadership you spoke of from America truly is extraordinary. I've said this many times before. A nation that leads like that and creates and sets big goals for humanity that brings other countries along with it is truly incredible. And I know that's a very intentional, not a necessary decision, intentional decision to lead by example and to allow other countries like Canada to share our gifts and help you achieve these mutually beneficial goals, like establishing a presence on the moon and eventually going to Mars. And Canadians are so proud to be a part of this program.
Well, I have to say I spoke to a very special person, Wayne Gretzky, who I think you know, the great one. And I spoke to your prime minister and many other friends I have in Canada. They are so proud of you, and you have a lot of courage. I'm not sure if they'd want to do that. I'm not even sure if the great one would want to do that, to be honest with you. But you have a lot of courage doing what you're doing, a lot of bravery and a lot of genius. But they're very, very proud of you.
Administrator Alex, I'm going to just get a quick comm check, make sure you guys are still on the line and we didn't have a handover.
I am. Yes, I am.
And integrity, and back over to you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I think we might have gotten cut off. It is a long distance. It's a long ways. The reception's been great. There's a little bit of about a 9-second delay, but no, I just had a statement for, I don't know what you heard, but I was just saying they're very proud of your brilliant person from Canada on the ship. And Wayne Gretzky is a great friend of mine, and he's very proud of him. And the Prime Minister I spoke to, they're very, very honored that you have a courageous person from Canada. You have a lot of courageous people from Canada. So it was very nice. I'm not sure if you heard me say that, but it was very nice.
Yes, Mr. President, we heard that, and we do love our Jeremy Hansen. We love all our Canadian astronauts, Jenny Gibbons, Josh Kutrick. They're just great people, and they're such a welcome addition to our Corps.
Great. Well, I really look forward to, when we can, I look forward to seeing you in the Oval Office. I'll ask Jared to bring you over, and I'll ask for your autograph, because I don't really ask for autographs much, but you deserve that. You really are something. Everybody's talking about this. And I look forward to having you in the Oval Office at the White House, and we will celebrate your incredible achievements and triumphs. This is big. This is really big stuff. The whole world is talking about it. And if you have the time, I will certainly find the time. I've been pretty busy also, as you know, but I will absolutely find the time, and we'll get together, and I'm going to be giving you a big salute on behalf of the American people and beyond that.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. And when you want us, we will be there. And thank you for your leadership. Thank you to Jared for his leadership. Really, thank you for taking the time out today to visit NASA. It's really special for us, but it's really special for the team on the ground. A whole team of people all around the world pulled this off, and we just want to say thank you to all of you for this. It is the thrill and honor of a lifetime to have been on this journey. Today was amazing, but this 3-year journey has been amazing, and it was made possible by the American people and the Canadian people, and we're so grateful to you all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And Jared, congratulations. We'll see you soon. And I know that you have Mars very much in your mind, so we'll start thinking about that pretty soon, I think. And thank you. Congratulations to everybody. I'll see you at the Oval Office.
Thank you for your time, Mr. President. It's been an honor.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Integrity. This is Houston ACR. That concludes.
And welcome to our continued coverage here this afternoon with latest updates on Artemis II, returning to Earth, and the conflict in Iran, Operation Epic Fury, with that very brave mission over the Easter weekend. I'm Robert McNeely. I hope you're having a wonderful Easter Tuesday as the octave continues and the celebration continues on a beautiful spring day from our studios on the loveliest village in the Plains, Auburn, Alabama, to you at home as we covered the latest inside the federal city, the Beltway, and outside of it. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trending political markets happening right now. The 2028 presidential contest. Who will be that nominee on the Republican side? Will it be the vice president, the secretary of state, a senator from Texas, or perhaps a governor from the free sunshine state of Florida, or someone else? Take your bets and trades on that. Plus music, sports, culture, and more. Last night, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines in order for the NCAA championship on the men's side. UCLA, the Bruins, on the women's side on Easter evening. Trade on the most important events happening here and abroad. Scan that QR code there, Kalshi.com/RSBN. And all of our sponsors are fantastic, but nice to see that Kalshi and Rumble Wallet can actually work together. Yes, you could trade and bet with crypto on your favorite events through the Rumble Wallet. Download for free now, Google Play Store and the App Store. Wallet.rumble.com leads you there where free speech meets financial freedom. At the Rumble Wallet, we know Rumble really leading the way on free speech and saving people online that were thrown off of social networks back during those COVID years, including President Trump from Facebook, Twitter at the time, and how many people have become involved to ensure free speech on the internet, including Elon Musk. But we do know that people that allegedly have the wrong opinion, according to the big banks and corporate entities, can turn you off, literally turn the lights off on your bank account, on your savings, your retirement. It's a frightening thought. So Rumble decided to protect your hard-earned savings so you can continue to be on the right side of history and not fear retribution. Wallet.rumble.com, the place to go. You can tip your favorite content creators, including us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, with things like Tether Gold to Bitcoin and also other crypto entities. So again, download for free the Google Play Store or the App Store. It's Rumble Wallet at wallet.rumble.com. Thank you for supporting us on the right side of history as we have this Operation Epic Fury now nearing day 40 with really a monumentous, heroic saving of the pilot over the Easter weekend. We'll break that all down as we cover the latest from the Trump White House. Welcoming in as well, Jim Paff, president of the Conservative Caucus. Always a joy to have you, sir, to break down what's happening. President Trump promising via Truth Social to wipe out the entire Iranian civilization if these specific terms are not met. Allegedly now that cutoff of negotiations has really reached that penultimate moment as we wait upon 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And the vice president in Budapest, Hungary, in case for last-minute negotiations, is literally a stone's throw away from Iran.
You notice that Iran is throwing as many people in front of the facilities that they believe are going to be targeted by Donald Trump so that they can work with their partners, the Democrat Party, to try to make it out to be something like war crimes. Donald Trump's serious about this. I don't think he's playing games. I remember back in Venezuela, with the Venezuela situation, you had the military, mostly the Navy, showing up in the Caribbean near Venezuelan waters. And everyone wondered if Donald Trump was actually going to do anything, and he did so successfully. So I think the Iranian regime might take a lesson from that, because it's clear so far Donald Trump is not playing games. He's dead serious about the fact that he does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't think any of us want that. And so far, it's been a very effective effort at stopping all this. And I want to remind people, you know that it's coming, that Democrats who are already teeing it up are ready to say that it is a war crime to target these facilities, and it's not. It happened in Bosnia. Bill Clinton was there. He can't pawn it off on NATO, and that was a NATO effort, but we were leading it. It was almost all our folks. You've seen this in many military engagements. Both Iraq wars, same thing. These sorts of facilities were bombed as well. So Donald Trump knows this. He knows what's at stake. He knows what will be effective. And I think the Iranians, they just got a few hours here to figure it out. And if not, it's going further. And in fact, we're seeing more talk about Kharg Island as we consider this, which is the main depot for Iranian oil. And that affects not only Iran, which 90% of its oil goes through there, but it also affects China as well. And this is getting to a serious point. We're about to embark upon something very interesting over the next few days, it seems.
Definitely a choke point if they do move in on Kharg Island, no question about that. Now, Jim, our allies really lost at sea, if you will, I guess. Japan to Australia, South Korea, and ultimately NATO. The big question there, as we were not allowed to fly over some of those spaces of our NATO allies. And they're within the 4,000 kilometers or less, if you include London, England to Tehran, Iran, and ultimately ballistic missiles can hit their populations. Does this make NATO obsolete, as Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO and former Dutch Prime Minister, scheduled to visit President Trump tomorrow, Wednesday, at the White House?
Donald Trump and Rutte have a very good relationship. He has no negatives on Rutte, but Rutte has to also work with the entire NATO regime of countries. NATO, frankly, was something that needed to be disbanded some short number of years after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. You could understand it being around for a little time thereafter, because you never know what that transition from Soviet Russia to Soviet USSR to Russia would be. I mean, there's a lot of instability after 70 years under communist control. That could be reasonable, but by this time, NATO is really not a necessary organization, at least not under its current construct. And we have, over 80 years being part of NATO, paid out $10 trillion to defend Europe. We pay out roughly $200 to $300 billion a year as it is already. And by the way, that doesn't include what's going on in Ukraine. And yet you've got these European countries that don't consider us an ally, apparently, or so we've found out in this situation. You know, this whole situation, not just the Trump second administration in general, but this situation with Iran, shows great weaknesses in the world that Donald Trump is, frankly, I believe, on the verge of fixing, with some chaos along the way, but not chaos of his own making, of others making. So consider this. The Middle East is about to embark upon a potential era of quietness that none of us have seen in our lifetime. You see the Abraham Accords and some of the Arab nations in the area aligning with Israel in some form or fashion. I think we have indications that that's a potential for Saudi Arabia even in the future. Every one of those nations was threatened by Iran in their region in a very real way. That's changing. You see Europe right now being exposed for its weakness. It is filled with weak leaders who are not interested in liberty, even for its own people. You've got a European Union that has a massive regulatory regime stopping growth. I mean, they said that the European Union was going to rival the United States in growth. Now it's only half of our GDP, but yet it has, I think, on the order of 20 to 30% more population. We're at about 330 million, and they're at about, I think, 410 million or something like that. I can't remember the exact number. But they have done nothing, and they're censoring their people all over the continent. So that is a change that is being exposed, or that's a situation that's being exposed for what it really is. But you also see things radically changing internationally as it relates to China and Russia as well. No doubt, China and Russia recognize right now that the United States military is nothing to be messed with. And listen, we've had 13 horrible deaths in this particular situation with Iran. If there were some reason for us to go to war, say with China over Taiwan, which I don't predict, but I'm just saying, if we did, China, who does want to do that, they recognize now, even though that would be a bloody battle, it would be a horrible battle if we were able to ever to get involved in such a thing. But China knows they have no ability to oppose this military. Someone pointed out the other day, they asked a question of someone interviewing them, how many naval battles has China ever been involved with? And it's surprising maybe for some to recognize they've never had a naval battle in their entire existence. And now they do have a massive navy, and it would be a very disastrous engagement. But the recognition of the fact that China is a bit more of a paper tiger than people sometimes realize, especially as it comes to the point where so much of their oil comes out of the Strait of Hormuz. And that is under threat right now. Russia, of course, although they have a strong military tradition, they are just not the country that they were when they were the USSR. And so those two countries are seeing what the real, power, strength, and frankly, foundation of the United States Republic is. And that's a very strong thing to have to contend with. BRICS is gone. That takes out Russia and China from trying to impose upon the U.S. dollar. That's gone. That's not coming back in the foreseeable future. Donald Trump has so radically transformed what has gone wrong on the international scene, mostly because of a majority weakness out of our United States presidents over the last three decades. Donald Trump's brought strength to that, and frankly, it can end up being a positive change, although things are still playing out as we speak. But I think the die is cast. Things are new now, and this situation has shown a potentially positive direction moving forward.
Clearly setting the stage for that May 14th and 15th meeting with President Xi Jinping in China. So much can happen in 1 month from now. So much can happen in a week in American politics. And that's my question as we have the Vice President in Budapest, Hungary, really pushing back against the globalists, Brussels, Belgium, and the whole of Germany, and what we've seen with the European Union, encouraging the endorsement of Viktor Orban and continuing in that Western civilization battle, but also for them to choose their direction with elections coming up 5 days from now. But I'm also curious about what you mentioned, Jim, with the Democrat Party here at home, because Senator Kelly long ago, well, not so long ago, 1989, Captain Kelly, on those air raids ordered by Bush 41 to attack the infrastructure and the shock and awe campaign, to quote General Norman Schwarzkopf, Stormin' Norman, as famed by comedian Chris Farley, impersonating him on Saturday Night Live, of age. And what was different back then with Article 2 and Bush 41's authority versus now, according to Senator Kelly and many media outlets in the Democrat alliances, wanting to say that this president somehow was conducting illegal orders?
Well, Mark Kelly is just a Democrat now, right? He's not even a military officer anymore. Listen, when there are many military people who serve in Congress who do so with great distinction, but there are many others who get so caught up in the political that they have no basis in reality anymore. They're willing to do the same thing that normal politicians do to advance the political agenda that they think is important. Mark Kelly epitomizes this. I think he's much worse than even a John Glenn, who still had some American patriotism about him, even though he could be a rabid Democrat and pretty insane, in my opinion, and experience with him. But nonetheless, there is a real problem with guys who get into politics and then they twist what the military means, because we have always applauded them, sometimes unnecessarily, as military experts that we should listen to. But when they go into this political realm and they lose all sense of reality because they're giving it all, everything that was honorable in them in the past, over to mere politics, that becomes a problem. Mark Kelly is doing that in every way. Listen, they may not be seeking prosecution or throwing them out of the military right now in terms of their calls for military personnel to disobey Donald Trump's orders, which still violates the U.S. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ. It's still violative of that, and he's still pushing in that direction. That is absolutely wrong. It's immoral. It's unethical. So Donald Trump is not violating anything. this electrical infrastructure he's threatening is significant for military purposes. It does allow the Iranians to utilize electricity to counter what we're doing militarily. And they cannot protect it. They're unable to do so. And they would be protecting it if they had the ability to do that. So, no, it's part of military strategy. We probably can find some potential risks to appropriateness on the edges of it, but it's war. You kill people and break things. And we're doing a lot less killing, except just military people in Iran, than anywhere else. I mean, this proves the fact that they're using civilians proves that their military is incapable of countering anything. That should be a sign to them to give it up. And they will ultimately have to give it up. I mean, I'm still concerned about what will happen on the back end of this. You never know what happens in the political realm in countries with these massive changes. But nonetheless, they're done. And Donald Trump is trying to make them aware that it's over and that he's determined to see it to the end.
Oh, in addition to targeting hotels and embassies throughout the Middle East, including Qatar and the UAE, Saudi Arabia, all very eager to end this as well. But to finish the mission, Jim Paff, thank you for your comments today. President of the Conservative Caucus. We'll see what happens at 8 o'clock tonight when the deadline is up. Please come back and see us again at the right side of history.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
And as we continue the latest, watching what's unfolding today and the latest news from the White House, we're keeping a keen eye on that as we thank our sponsors on Right Side Broadcasting Network. With everything going on in the world right now, Operation Epic Fury to the threat of inflation, $38 trillion plus in national debt, supply chain issues, and global instability, shortages that can affect us here at home and even abroad. Nobody's talking about your access to medication. Do you rarely hear this in the news? I sure miss these stories, and I'm flipping channels on a regular basis. Most people don't think about that sort of security, having life-saving medications right at home or to travel with as you enjoy spring break and Easter travels. Now, we've been recommending All Family Pharmacy to you for a while now here at the network, and it's 10% off site-wide. So order those essential medications from antibiotics to ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, antivirals, as well as emergency medical kits. But really key right now with a bad cold and flu season, even as we extend into the spring, it's Tamiflu and nasal sprays to help you beat back that pollen as well as the season changes. In fact, 400 everyday prescriptions, off-label generic uses right here at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for blood pressure, thyroid, diabetes, and much more to protect if you're going through any of those ailments. Now, make it simple. If you have a prescription, your doctor can send it straight in. A U.S. licensed doctor reviews that on the other end. If you do not have insurance, there's no hassle, no issues, no problem with that. All Family Pharmacy does just that, putting family first and common sense first without having the middlemen involved. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for all of the essentials, 400 plus medications there for you. 10% off site-wide, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's RSBN 10 for that code right there. Now that you have your health in order, make sure that financial health stays stable with Birch Gold Group. The dollar going down and diversifying savings with gold essential, again, with all of the turmoil happening all over the world. Text Trump to 989898. Did you know that gold going up 700% in the last 2 decades? It's rather remarkable. So get that free gold guide. I have one right here. It's all about gold IRAs, a very thin and easy to read info kit there. 2026 information kit. This is endorsed by Dr. Ron Paul, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton, also Steve Bannon, Ben Shapiro, all trusting this as the go-to group. Did you know as well, JP Morgan, they're hoarding a lot of silver. There's a whole topic on it right at that booklet there. So I recommend it. Also shows you how these precious metals have skyrocketed and governments around the world buying up gold and silver for their portfolios and for their own respective Federal Reserves. Text Trump to 989898 for more information. And like 2016, mean, what do you have to lose? To figure out what's best for you and your savings and your tax-sheltered retirement plans at Birch Gold Group, text Trump to 989898. Diversifying with gold and silver, very smart nowadays. As we cover the latest from the Trump White House, and Rapid Response putting out much in the last several hours in regards to what is going on in the world, especially that Easter mission that saved the pilot there deep into the heart of Iran. But with the vice president in Budapest, Hungary, endorsing Viktor Orban as well as the administration as Trump's candidate overseas, a beautiful country as well that's putting Christianity first, Western civilization in the crosshairs against the unholy triumvirate of communism to Islamism and globalist secular thought that's affecting our Western way of life. The vice president opening his statements with cut number 1 in Budapest, Hungary.
Hello, Mr. President. How are you? Now, we have had a whirlwind of a trip already, but I find myself thinking the same things on this visit that I did during our brief vacation here as a private citizen a few years ago. Budapest is a beautiful place. It was built by people, your ancestors, who used its beautiful architecture and landscape to lift up the human spirit. And it's an honor to visit as relations between America and Hungary have reached new heights. An exciting era of new ties on everything ranging from energy security to business and trade cooperation to closer cultural bonds. So I want to say, my friends, thank you. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you for being a great friend of the United States of America.
And the president also joining in on a call there with cut number 2, and the vice president, of course, reaching out to those in Budapest upon their election just 5 days away.
Hello, Mr. President. How are you? Mr. President, you are on with about 5,000 Hungarian patriots, and I think they love you even more than they love Viktor Orban.
Well, I can't believe that. I can't believe that, because I love Hungary and I love that Viktor. I'll tell you, he's a fantastic man. We've had a tremendous relationship, and he does a job. Remember this, he didn't allow people to storm your country and invade your country like other people have and ruin their countries, frankly. He's kept your country good. He's kept Hungarian people in your country. And he's done a fantastic job. And let me tell you, I like him a lot, but if I didn't think he did a good job, I wouldn't be making a call like this. But boy, that sounds like a big crowd, and that sounds like my kind of people. What a crowd. JD must have made a very good speech to get this kind of a response. I guess. How did JD do? Did he give a good speech, everybody?
It's very early, sir.
It's early. Okay, well, I just want to tell you, I'm a big fan of Viktor. I'm with him all the way. The United States is with him all the way. And it's a real honor to talk to you. You're really incredible people with great enthusiasm and brilliance, because you're brilliant people. And I really love it. You have a man that kept your country strong, and he kept your country good. And you don't have problems with all of the problems that so many other countries have because they let their countries be invaded. And you don't have that problem because of Viktor Orban. That's the only reason you don't have that problem. There was a lot of pressure on him to do it, and those other countries made big mistakes. So I wish you a lot of luck, and I love you all.
Thank you, Mr. President.
President Trump and Vice President Vance clearly very popular there at a big rally, maybe a preview to come of 2028 there in Hungary. An exciting election as we wish Viktor Orban great success in the coming days in the Hungarian election. We'll jump to cut number 8 and the Vice President speaking on that sovereignty from Brussels, Belgium, and Germany, and the entire whole of the European Union that doesn't seem too happy with the course of where Hungary is going, but after all, they're simply defending their sovereignty.
I am here for a simple reason, because I admire what you are fighting for. You're fighting for your freedom, you're fighting for your sovereignty, and I am here because President Trump and I wish for your success, and we are fighting right here with you. We want no more and we ask no more than to be allies against those who seek to push Hungary down. And you have drawn the attention of the American people, really people all across the world, because Hungary has been on the front lines of such foes. In 2016, when the rest of Europe threw open its gates, you said no. When strange activists came to tell you to erase your heritage, you said no. And when a war erupted in your neighborhood, you were kind and generous. You opened your neighborhoods, your homes, and your hospitals. But you never forgot the needs of your own people and why to Hungary, Hungarians must always come first. And for all these reasons, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the American people, we admire you. And we want you to make a decision about your future with no outside forces pressuring you or telling you what to do. I'm not telling you exactly who to vote for. But what I am telling you is that the bureaucrats in Brussels, those people should not be listened to. Listen to your hearts. Listen to your souls, and listen to the sovereignty of the Hungarian people.
We do have quite the heart for the people of Hungary, a beautiful nation, that capital of Budapest, highly recommended to travel to as they continue on in the defense of Western civilization. And here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we are grateful for our sponsors. And being able to really have that ability to give you unbridled access to your 45th to 47th Commander-in-Chief, the 50th Vice President, and also the 119th Congress as we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway today. We are grateful for Kalshi.com/RSBN, the trading political market right now, who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for President of the United States. Will he beat right there the 50th Vice President, J.D. Vance, or perhaps the 72nd Secretary of State, Marco Rubio? Will Senator Ted Cruz make a run, or perhaps Governor Ron DeSantis? Now term limited, as we've seen with countless governors in the Southeast. That's turning a whole page now in the 2026 elections. What is his political future? Or perhaps will it be someone else to emerge in that contest? As baseball is underway, and with now March Madness wrapping up, you can trade and bet on the most important events across the country: music, sports, politics, culture, and more. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade live now. Scan that QR code and make sure you trade and bet on the most interesting things that are out there in the American society. But in the meantime, make sure your gut is healthy with CovePure.com/RSBN. Did you know that the gut and the brain, those receptors, much more connected than you probably think? So protect what matters most with drinking pure and living pure covepure.com/RSBN. Our tap water, full of microplastics and FPAs, PFAs, all of these nasty things you're hearing about from pesticides, agricultural runoff, and also medical residue, yes, in the water system. So as water requirements now don't have until 2031 to get with a recent law from last year to be up to standards on the books, what are you to do to protect your family? covepure.com/RSBN. The answer to that, $250 off right now. So scan that QR code there. No larger than your coffee machine at home, on top of your kitchen counter or in your den. What's nice about this machine, if you're renting, no need for a plumber, no need for drilling, no need for pipes, so you don't have to worry about losing your security deposit and making a mess in the process. If you like tea, you do not have to wait to steep the tea. In fact, as you can see with the model there, that hot water coming out instantly. Same if you'd like cold water, lukewarm water, whatever your preference is. In fact, I have friends who sometimes they drink the hot water right in the morning, get the system going. covepure.com/RSBN. Very smart thing to do now, as JAMA Pediatrics doing a study that children 2 and up can actually lose 2 or more points of their IQ drinking the tap water on a regular basis. We need less learning loss, especially after COVID. And covepure.com/RSBN, protecting what matters most to you and your family. Drink pure, live pure. Scan that QR code now and get ready to have that life-saving device at your fingertips. As we continue to cover the latest inside of the Beltway, we are joined by Ashley Brassfield of the Daily Caller. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Happy Easter Tuesday. Ashley, what will happen tonight at 8 o'clock with this deadline looming for the Iranian regime?
Well, happy Easter to you too. And I wish I knew. I think we're all sitting and waiting here in Washington, D.C. to see what President Trump's next move is. And a lot of speculation as to whether the goalposts will be moved another couple of days. If he were to bomb it, of course, we've seen multiple Truth Social posts be put out the last several days, I would say in a threatening manner by the president towards the Iranians, the IRGC, even the Iranian people today, saying that he's going to wipe out the country at this point. So I think that it's been an interesting, development, considering a lot of the, candor going into this conflict was to help the Iranian people by many. But I think that the American people are sitting and waiting for that 8 p.m. deadline to see what the president does here.
Are you hearing anything inside the Beltway where there could be a last-minute move of the vice president being in Budapest, Hungary today, actually traveling in or around Iran to perhaps sit down or at least take a phone call from officials, because in a sense he's a stone's throw away from the Iranian regime?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think it's an interesting timing for him to be visiting Hungary, of course, for the re-election of Viktor Orban, who is a friend of this administration. Many call him a Hungarian nationalist in a lot of ways. But this is the first visit by the vice president, but very interesting times that it's actually happening with the threat looming over Iran currently, with another strike massively by the United States right now. So not hearing anything currently on my end. But there is a New York Times article that just got dropped that I found very interesting, that they have sources talking about, possibilities of visits prior of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House to talk to the president about the, initial strikes on Iran this time around, not back in last June, but, when they started back in February from the United States. So I think that there is a lot of speculation there with that new report as to the influence Israel had and putting the president's hand to move forward with that operation, with Operation Epic Fury in general. And also, just I think speculation as to how we've gotten to this point and what's led to the president's decision that we might be seeing at 8 o'clock today.
Now, how does that affect us here at home? Because you're doing a great job really covering Capitol Hill. Can they come back in their Easter recess and perhaps, hold the oil and gas companies accountable? It's kind of a tough position to be in, because as I see it, we have most of that oil and gas that come through or can come through the Strait of Hormuz right now, really 80% of that going to Asia, the rest around Europe, doesn't affect us necessarily, but we've seen how gas prices have skyrocketed here at home. Is there something that Congress can do to address this in the short term as, God willing, this Operation Epic Fury may wrap up in the next few weeks?
I'm not sure that Congress, of course, they always can come back. That's not the question here. But I think as to what they can do and how much they can move the needle, I think also counts on the idea that if the Strait of Hormuz can be reopened, and if that is playing a factor in the president's decision today, that's very necessary for the worldwide economy. I mean, we're talking about fertilization of our plants across the globe because of fertilizer going through the Strait of Hormuz, as well as the oil and gas that's being stuck in that region that usually goes through that strait. So I think there's a lot of consideration with the economy globally happening. But, I think here back home domestically, I think Americans are going to start to think, these prices are way too high. We have midterms coming up. There's a consideration there. That should be something that the Republicans in Congress should be thinking about, along with the Save America Act and the long list of, items that they should be back in Congress handling right now, but they're not. And, and I think the DHS shutdown was kind of a prime example of the inaction by Congress in a lot of ways. And I know as well as reconciliation's been brought up, they have a lot on their hands, and they've taken that Easter recess. So it's really up to them if they'd like to come back.
And perhaps another Republican vote coming soon, as today, April 7th, a special election in Georgia's 14th. So that was MTG's seat that was vacated. Clay Fuller there really leading that race by the polling. But of course, if you have not voted, get out there and do that. If you are in Rome, Georgia, or the surrounding 14th, a very large district in the northwest corner of the Peach State. And NASA today, the historic Artemis II on its way back. Did you catch any of that, Ashley, as the president calling in to those very brave astronauts many hundreds of thousands of miles away in the open air known as space?
Yes, the mission that, of course, I caught the tail end of them circling the moon yesterday. I was on a flight myself, so kind of unimaginable that they are way higher up than I was at that point. But a great message from the astronauts talking about, kind of the beauty of space and being able to see the Earth. I really enjoyed that message, especially coming after Easter Sunday. And I think the, compilation too of the rescue mission that took place in Iran to save that downed pilot, along with this Artemis mission, it kind of shows the greatness of American innovation, especially within the sciences itself, but also within our defense sector. So I think that was a great accomplishment, especially by the newly appointed NASA director. And we saw the president, of course, take a call to speak to those astronauts as they were circling that in the atmosphere. So I think it was really great.
Yesterday as well, with that press briefing at the White House, the President, Secretary Pete Hegseth, and also General Dan Raisin Kane. And that it gave me goosebumps as Secretary of War Hegseth came up to the podium and talked about that Easter mission and the fact that that pilot had to literally crawl bravely and actually bleeding profusely into that cave. And this is all the timeline of, I believe, being shot down on Holy Thursday, this in-between time of from Good Friday into Easter Saturday, and ultimately flying out of Iranian airspace as he was saved on Easter Sunday morning. What a storyline, very similar to what took place over 2,000 years ago.
Right, that's exactly right. And I think the picture of that heading into Easter Sunday, I think everybody was on the edge of their seats for that second pilot to be rescued. I know I was on vacation, but I kept a close eye on that story all weekend. But I do think it shows, the resilience, and that, I've heard many European leaders talk about this, saying, why would you, execute all those resources to go save someone like that? And I think that's just the American way. And I think a lot of Americans identify with that. No man left behind. And it's a no-stop mission to get him out, and they accomplished that. And of course, just really wonderful that happening on Easter Sunday. I think it gave a lot of Americans hope, and it really showed the American way in so many ways.
And unlike the sleepy Joe Biden administration that lost approximately $80 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in U.S. intel secrets and machinery in Afghanistan, that probably ultimately went to the Chinese, at least to observe after that botched exit from the war on terror in Afghanistan. We have now those machines, those helicopters that were brought down, destroyed immediately. But again, to your point, Ashley, saving the pilots and no man left behind. So it seems like common sense is back in our military. With all of these issues, I know we like to get ahead in the media, try to figure out exactly what's going on, and we might not know what will take place until 8 p.m. tonight. But what's your forecast of cultural shifts in America as a result of what's happening with Epic Fury, what's happening here at home, gas prices? We have a much different culture than overseas, and part of that is freedom, abundant freedom. And we look at our 401ks, we look at our savings, and a lot of times not only every day can our fellow Americans be obsessed with it, as they should be, but we look at things quarterly, especially in our economy. So how does that relate to those turning out for the midterm elections and who they will ultimately vote for come the fall?
Right. Well, I think you have to look at, Congress's success rate with Republicans in charge over the last year and a half heading into these midterms. I mean, last year, the Republican Congress, it was the least successful in a first year of a president's term in years. I think only about under 40 bills were passed in that first year. So I'm sure we're looking at even less with coming into the midterms here. So I think Americans are going to look there. We saw kind of a sneak peek of this back in November when Mamdani got elected in New York City, as well as Abigail Spanberger. And I think that was a warning sign. They concentrated a lot on affordability. Whether you think it's pricing, affordability, there's a lot of different messaging on this. I think this matters to Americans. It's whether the American dream survives. It's whether American people have hope. And this ties into, the rising gas prices. I think people have to palpably feel their wallets and that they're not spending too much money, that they're able to live the American dream, have a house, build a family successfully. So I think these are all things that people are looking at heading to the midterms. And, as far as cultural shifts, I think within the Republican Party alone, there's been this topic of, MAGA, America first. The president says MAGA and America first. Well, they're the same thing. And I think there is some, discourse on that on the internet currently, if that's actually true or not at this point. So I think that's a conversation that a lot of people are trying to pull back from, but it's continuing to unfold. And a lot of this happens to be over the issue of Operation Epic Fury, Israel. But it really does tie back ultimately to domestic issues and the affordability and being able to live out that American dream in so many ways for the younger generations. And so it's a dispute happening within the party. As far as Democrats, I don't see much changing within their party, but a lot of the discourse, of course, happens within the Republican Party. That's kind of the differences that you've seen. So I think those are the key things you're going to have to pay attention to in the coming months, and we've been having to pay attention to, and they're not going away.
Bound to happen with a big tent movement like MAGA, like Republican politics. And we're seeing in Central Texas, actually, some of those prices going down now on homes. San Marcos, that area growing anywhere between 6 to 10% down. So that's exciting. I'm sure state policies have a lot to do with that as well. They gained 4 congressional seats in recent terms. And before we let you go, Ashley, it's something where I think the Southeast really seeing a resurgence, somewhat of a political and economical resurrection as people continue to move down to this region of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from the Southeast, as you know, and we saw a huge migration from places up north to the South, places like Atlanta, Georgia, down to Texas. And you see why they've moved there. It's because of the economic policy in those states that has been so successful. We've had a Daily Caller live event where Congresswoman Beth Van Dunn talked about the success in Texas. And, you've seen prices go up on homes there due to the fact of the influx of people coming from places like blue states like California, New York, where those policies, they've been taxed out of the state, even the rich, that's their policy. So I think places like Tennessee, like Texas, you're going to continue to see populations go up. But I think you're also seeing some new, trends happening there that they're going to have to address due to that. And so can younger Americans still buy homes affordably? That's the question.
Always on point. It is Ashley Brassfield, reporter for the Daily Caller. Come back and see us soon at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you for having me.
As we cover the latest from the Trump White House, inside and outside of the Beltway, we are grateful for one of our finest sponsors across the board with everything going on in the world, has actually helped cover for us today, like Operation Epic Fury, to the inflation rates and those gas prices that have, at least temporarily, gone up. A lot of people don't think about medication as global instability happens, but we are all globally connected, and those supply chains, they do get affected. But allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, giving you that access, that right to try with generic off-label medications, from antibiotics to ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, mebendazole, and also methylene blue, but also antivirals, emergency medical kits, and nasal spray, Tamiflu. So important as the seasons change, and as we've been seeing throughout the spring, sometimes those cold temperatures, sometimes glorious days like today down here in the Yellowhammer state of Alabama. With all of that, we've had a bad cold and flu season. As that continues, make sure you have what matters most in those medicine cabinets and access to travel with them. Now, most people don't think about it until they actually need something, until they have to go in the urgent care line or call their doctor. But with All Family Pharmacy, we've been recommending them for a while now because your doctor can reach out to their U.S. licensed doctor on the other end with a prescription note. Their doctor can also do the same. No insurance, no middlemen necessary in order to achieve obtaining life-saving medications from this independent American pharmacy that helps you stock up and ultimately prepare for what can be a disaster if you don't have everyday medications. 400, in fact, you can choose from. So whether you have blood pressure, thyroid problems, diabetes, and much, much more, this online family pharmacy can help take care of that for you. They make it simple. You fill out a quick form, go online, and again, that U.S. licensed medical doctor on the other hand sending back that order after review within a couple of days. So it's nice and convenient. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, leading the way for you. 10% off right now with code RSBN10. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And as your healthcare needs, medication needs are in order, make sure your financial assets and savings make sense with a tax-sheltered retirement from the Birch Gold Group. The dollar is going down. That's just a fact of the matter. Again, with global instability and other factors here at home. Diversify with gold going up 700% in the last 2 decades. And you could do so, get started now by texting Trump to 989898. I have this nifty free info kit on the house, and there you can find the great endorsers of this, from Clay Travis to Buck Sexton, Dr. Ron Paul, also Ben Shapiro, Steve Bannon, all backing the Birch Gold Group. And it details here why JP Morgan Chase, a great historic bank, buying up silver. There's a reason for that. And governments around the world buying up gold for their own respective Federal Reserve. So how are you to defend yourself against that global instability that exists? Diversify with a 401k, with an IRA, and in addition to properties or even that crypto world, which could then threaten the value of the dollar as we see it going down. What has not changed? It's tangible metals, gold, silver, and the works. Text Trump to 989898. Birch Gold Group, the best in the business. Thank you for sponsoring us on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we continue to cover the latest news of the day for you. And if you're new to Right Side Broadcasting Network, we are your go-to live desk, rally network, and live event space for politics right here at home. And sometimes we throw in that sports and music and everything else happening as culture really intersects through politics. It's simply a downstream of one another. As the late, great Charlie Kirk would say on a regular basis, politics is simply that, the downstream of the American culture. As we covered the latest from the Trump White House, and we have the president at the White House today, yesterday at the Easter egg roll, that great press briefing leading up to this announcement tonight. So we're watching that closely. The vice president also in Budapest, Hungary, as we cover that. And with cut number 9, the vice president hoping that Iran makes the right response before 8 p.m. Eastern tonight.
But we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
This trip highlighted as a day for Hungarian-American friendship, as with cut number 10, the vice president committed to the defense of Western civilization and all that Budapest, Hungary, and the entirety of the country has built up now for years.
There's so many ways in which the United States and Hungary have been great economic partners, and that partnership has really accelerated over the past couple of years under President Trump's leadership. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here primarily, Victor, because of the economic cooperation between our countries. I'm here because of the moral cooperation between our two countries, because what the United States and Hungary together represent under Victor's leadership and under President Trump's leadership is the defense of Western civilization, the defense of the idea that children should be able to go to school and get educated and not indoctrinated, the defense of the idea that European and American families should be able to transport themselves and be able to afford to heat and cool their homes, the defense of the idea that we are founded on a certain Christian civilization and Christian values that animate everything from freedom of speech to rule of law to respect for minority rights and protection of the vulnerable. There is so much that unites the United States and Hungary, and unfortunately, there have been too few people who have been willing to stand up for the values of Western civilization. Viktor Orban is the rare exception that has unfortunately proved the rule. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm here because Viktor is a statesman, and we have seen so much talk in European capitals about the need to end the war in Russia and Ukraine, and we certainly agree with it. The war would have never started if President Trump had been president 4 years ago, but now that it has started, probably the two leaders who have done the most to actually end that destructive conflict have been Donald J. Trump and Viktor Orban in Hungary, and they've done it through diplomacy, through talking to people, through trying to understand what the Ukrainians and the Russians need to end the war. We're going to continue to participate in that process, but I think that it is a testament to the people of Hungary that you're a country of 10 million people, but I'm telling you, I've sat in all the rooms and I've been on all the phone calls. Your leadership has been a far, far more important and constructive partner for peace than almost anyone anywhere else in the world, and that is a great testament, I think, to the wisdom and the courage of the people of Hungary.
We see the exact opposite of what the vice president explained in Iran today. 47 years of terror and proxies equaling nearly a baker's dozen across the world, and especially in the Middle East, wreaking havoc and attacking Americans and American interests now for 2 or even more generations. Over the last half century, we've seen this. Cut number 11, President Trump warning tonight, come 8 o'clock, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have a complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran and a Persian culture that was much different if you go back to prior to the removal of the Shah in 1979, and Time magazine even highlighting photos there of a wonderful people, a beautiful people that were once living in much different circumstances, not in the fear of the Iranian Republican Guard and the Ayatollahs and the overlords that are currently existing. But we'll see what happens with that call tonight, as it is a critical period with jumping to cut 23 before 8 o'clock tonight. This period of time, we'll see what happens, as the president detailing this yesterday at the press briefing.
This is a critical period. They have a period of, well, till tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I gave them an extension. They asked for an extension of 7 days, right? I said, Steve, give them 10 days. 10 days is up actually today, so I gave them 11, I guess, indirectly. I thought it was inappropriate the day after Easter. I want to be a nice person. They have till tomorrow. Now, we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of people are affected by this. But we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, they're going to have no bridges. They're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah. Stone Ages.
President Trump clear on no nukes for Iran. You can find the receipts all the way back to 2015 stating that very issue. And cut number 24 is no different, as he made that clear yesterday.
47 years they've been negotiating with these people. They're great negotiators, and because they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And if somebody that takes my place someday is weak and ineffective, which possibly that will happen because we had numerous presidents that were weak, ineffective, and afraid of Iran, we're never going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And if you think it's okay for people that are sick of mind, that are tough, smart, and sick, really sick, from a policy standpoint, from a any which way you want to say, mentally, these are disturbed people. If you think I'm going to allow them, and powerful and rich, to have a nuclear weapon, you can tell your friends at the New York Times, not going to happen.
The president also explaining that intercepts happening, receipts from the Iranian citizens explaining their desire, apparently, for continued bombing and to finish off this war, to potentially bring them a new government and perhaps freedom.
Why would they want you to blow up their infrastructure, to cut off their power? Wouldn't that be punishing Iranians for the actions of the regime?
They would be willing and it's suffering. They would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back. These are the people. I don't know what they do. All I can tell you is they want freedom. They have lived in a world that you know nothing about. It's a violent, horrible world where if you protest, you are shot. Remember the great woman protests where they had 400,000, 500,000 women, and they were all enthused and they were going to protest, and everybody said, oh, the regime's going to come to an end. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, 5, 6 different areas. A woman would go down right between the eyes. They had snipers. They had 5 snipers. That's all it took. And those 400,000 or 500,000 women said, oh my God, what's that? Oh, look over there, what's that? A woman shot right between the eyes. And after 5 or 6 of them go down, then you start hearing the purr through the vast number of people. And then they said, oh my God, who would do that? And they're incredible people, but they've lived so horribly. They've lived so horribly. You know, Iran was a great country if you go back 25 years ago or so. The Persian people, they're incredible, smart, brilliant, actually. And I know so many. I know coming from New York, originally I know so many people from Iran. They're incredible people, incredible energy, and very, very brilliant people. But when you're standing in a group and protesting and you have a woman, in the case of a woman, remember the Great Woman March, everybody was saying, oh, this is the end of the country. And then snipers selectively picked. Every single one was shot right between the eyes from a long distance. They were on top of buildings. Nobody even knew where they were. Where they coming from? This wasn't like a machine gun, which is also very bad. They've done that too. They did that recently. This was snipers sitting on the top of buildings, aiming and hitting women. And when they see people go down, and all of a sudden there's a riot in the reverse direction, and they never came out again. And a lot of the news doesn't talk about that. They talk about, oh, women's rights. You want to see women's rights, you're not going to see it there. It's amazing when I see some of the stupid people like, AOC +3, all that group. They talk about, freedom for Iran. They don't tell you the real facts. Women, men, gays. How about gays for Iran? They kill the gays. They throw them off buildings. So I wonder what's going on. I can only say this. They want us to keep bombing, even if it jeopardizes, because their life is in much greater danger. They want freedom for Iran, but it's very hard for them to protest. I actually tell them, I said, don't go out. I fully understand. Nobody in this room would go out. I don't think there's any, because frankly, it's not a question of bravery. We're all brave, right? You're brave, I'm brave, we're all brave. But we're also intelligent. If you have people shooting at you, expert shots with the best rifles you can get, and hitting you right between the eyes every single time, and you're looking here and you're seeing and you're looking here, you're out of there. I don't care who it is.
And with all of the scary times that involve something like an operation like this in epic fury, our thoughts and prayers with the amazing military and the might that they've shown in this process. Really an amazing 6-week operation thus far. And with Cut 26, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth reminding us of this Easter miracle, recovering this pilot in what was very, very difficult, but amazing coordination by the CIA, the Department of Justice, also the Department of War, to obtain our heroes who are never left behind.
One downed airman evaded capture for more than a day, scaling rugged ridges while hunted by the enemy. When he was finally able to activate his emergency transponder, his first message was simple and it was powerful. He sent a message, God is good. In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good.
And the White House observing that, and many media outlets to their credit, with Cut 31 and the bravery of our troops in Operation Epic Fury.
The United States military will go anywhere, at any time, to protect our own and complete the mission.
We got them, my fellow Americans. Over the past several hours, the United States military pulled off one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history.
This is yet another rescue that has left the world in awe of our military and our special forces, and frankly, not just of our president, but of Pete Hegseth.
When the president says he has the backs of our warfighters, he means it.
I ordered the U.S. Armed Forces to do whatever was necessary to bring our brave warriors back home. A risky decision, but in the United States military, we leave no American behind.
It's incredibly impressive that the U.S. military pulled this off.
This is a huge win for President Trump.
This rescue operation, successful, elaborate.
We should all celebrate the fact that they've got both these crewmen back. It's a miracle.
No American lives were lost. We leave no man behind. And that is not luck.
It was necessary to do everything in our power to ensure that no troops were left behind.
Our intelligence reflects that the Iranians were embarrassed and ultimately humiliated by the success of this audacious rescue mission. None of this would have been possible without the courageous leadership and ironclad determination of President Donald J. Trump. Under his command, America projects power with confidence and brings our people home with victory.
God be with our troops. As we've covered the latest in the developments on Operation Epic Fury, the Vice President's trip to Budapest, Hungary, and Easter, as we are very great that no one is left behind in our military, a much different military than what we had under sleepy Joe Biden and the last administration, defending American interests, putting America first, and regardless of political ideology, we are fully behind our American military. Thank you for joining us for the last 2 hours of coverage today. In case there's any breaking news tonight, we'll be right here with you at Right Side Broadcasting Network. If you like what you see here, go to Live Desk Rally Network, and also the #1 source for live political events right here in America. RSBN is viewer supported. Please feel free to donate at rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, you can send a check or money order into 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. That's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us on Right Side Broadcasting Network. As again, we are viewer supported. rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can also like, share, and subscribe at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter, where we have some great writers here at the network to dive in deep to the many issues we cover on the broadcast as well. So be sure to tell a friend and follow on your favorite social media site. Also, thank you to Mike Lindell and mypillow.com/RSBN. The warehouse moving sale. Save up to 80%, a big 80 right now. Promo code RSBN, so very easy to remember. Let's give them a call today and do not delay. 800-836-7566. President Trump says it best. The master marketer. It's Mike Lindell and mypillow.com/RSBN. There you can support Mike. You can support us with over 2,000 different products on the online store, and the best deals, including things like my coffee. I got some right here, and you can smell it through the bag. Always puts you in the mood for a cup of joe with one of our favorite guys and candidate for Minnesota governor. Can't wait for that to happen this year. The American flag, the Bill of Rights, being held there by our dear friend Mike Lindell. Everything made in America right up there in the great state of Minnesota, whether it's the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow 1.0, 2.0, the My Coffee, which is used with fair and free trade products, but then also those My Slippers, all made here in America and resourced from some of the most amazing places around the globe. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network right now at mypillow.com/RSBN. As we bid you adieu today, it's always a pleasure to be with you here on the right side of history this Tuesday, April 7th, with so many consequential decisions potentially. And again, that 8 p.m. Eastern deadline. Will the vice president be able to have last-minute negotiations? We're hearing now that there's some cutoff on dialogue between Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, the entire negotiation team led by Secretary Marco Rubio, with the Iranian regime that is in power at the moment. We'll see what happens less than 5 hours from now, so watch that closely today, as that's big news as we're covering the latest inside and outside of the Beltway. For Matthew Alvarez and all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. If we have any breaking news, we'll be right back here with you on the right side of history, the #1 place for political events, your go-to live desk and rally network at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Have a wonderful day. May God bless you on this Easter Tuesday, and we'll see you again very soon.